Hey crafty friend, I'm Amanda with Pear Blossom Press, and I'm so excited to be joining you on the Trinity Stamps channel today to share this fun light up shaped card. I just couldn't resist. I had to use that See You Soon Mermaid again. I think she's so adorable from the new release. And I had this really cool snow globe die set. You may have this already in your stash as well. I've used it before for holiday cards, but I thought I'll make it an underwater globe for this card. So let me show you the different products that we'll be using for this card today. This is a Twinkle Light. All you do is slip the battery in and push the button and the lights will twinkle. You do want a stamp that says push, so I've got the Paper Crafting Magic stamp set. I've also got the See You Soon stamp and coordinating die set for that mermaid. We've got the Sea Life silhouette stamps, the Simply Sentimental birthday stamps and coordinating dies, and then the snow globe card die set, and that's the round one. There is a tall, skinny one too, tall and skinny snow globe, which might be fun if you wanted to do a different focal point. So with this die set though, I've already gone ahead and cut out 3 layers of the detail part of the snow globe, and then I cut the little base and the reflection and the card base as well. I do have a piece of acetate and I'll show you how to cut the window for that. I want to show you that we're going to use the world's best double thick foam tape, and then you want some of the clear iridescent shooting sparkle stars to light up. We're going to make those starfish. So let me show you how to make the window for a snow globe like this. If you die cut it, the edges would be a little bit too short. So what I do is I take a piece of acetate, just layer it on my die, and then trace it with a Sharpie. And I'm actually tracing between the grooves. And that way when I fussy cut it, I know it'll be just right. It'll fit between the white edges of the snow globe there, and it won't stick out, and it won't be too small. And it doesn't matter if you don't cut that really smooth, if you don't draw it perfectly, as long as you kind of keep your line between those 2 layers, or between the borders, it'll work out great. And it'll end up getting sandwiched in, so nobody will see those edges. I do like to use a good wet glue for acetate. If you don't have wet glue that you like, you can use the rip and stick tape as well. I do prefer wet glue whenever I can because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room here. And I am using Barely Arts glue. That holds acetate just fine. So let's take one of the inner pieces and start some ink blending. You can see I've got 3 shades of blue Distress Oxide ink, the black soot, and then also a white pigment ink. And I'm just going to go ahead and start with the darkest blue down at the bottom. Then I will work my way up to 2 lighter shades of teal there. Come back in and blend that a little bit more, and then I will come back in with the black ink down at the bottom. I didn't want to start with it first and make it too dark. I just want to bring it in later. And then for my white ink, I keep a separate brush that's just for white pigment ink. And I like that one because it has a lid even, so that the brush is protected when I'm not using it. And notice as I come in from the top and blend the ink down, I am cleaning the brush in between just so that I don't contaminate my white pad. Then I can blend up a little bit of blue down towards the bottom again and make it just a nice blended little ocean scene there with light coming in from the top. I spritz some water on and then I let that dry off camera. And now I'll bring in those Sea Life silhouette stamps to stamp the background here. I really like this set because you don't have to color. And it's nice to build a background without having to color, right? So I'm going to just lay that down. This is the first time I'm using this stamp, so I didn't condition it. I tend to be lazy about conditioning stamps, especially when I have my stamp positioner. I'll just stamp it a couple of times if I need to. And in this case, it worked out just fine. I stamped the black soot Distress Oxide again, and then I want to clean it up and bring in a little bit of purple. And that's just going to layer on top of the black and give me just a hint of color, but I still get the deep dark shadows from the black ink underneath. And now I can bring in some of the smaller little fish to add details to the scene. And you can see I've die cut one of the mermaids already. and I'll bring her in just to eyeball where she's going to sit on the card roughly, so that I know I don't need to stamp a whole lot on the left side of the underwater scene, because it'll all be covered up. There's no point in spending a lot of time coloring and building scene work that will get completely covered up. So I just kind of use that as the guide, and then I will clean and swap out stamps in between as I build this up. For these two fish that are down into the darker section of the water, I wanted to make them pop a little bit, so I stamped them with white ink first, and then I can go ahead and put yellow and pink on top, and that way the white gives them a little bit of a base to pop off of, so they're brighter. And I'll go ahead and add just a few more fish here, some of them in the bright colors, especially towards the top, and then some of them I'll stamp in the same blues that we ink blended with, just so that they look further away. That adds depth and dimension to the scene. And I've got that little purple, another little pop of purple. I did not add the white underneath, and I didn't add the black underneath that one. And so he is a different color, and in real life he really does pop nicely. And then you can see I start using some of the blues just to kind of fill out the scene and make them look like they're further away in the globe. Okay, I think that looks nice, so we can set that aside. Now we will stamp up the mermaid, and then we can color her. I'm stamping with an alcohol-friendly ink. This one's a hybrid ink, so you could go either way. And I tend to just grab those just so I never have to worry, what am I going to color it with? Today I'm coloring with Olo markers, and I am not going to make you watch me color this whole thing because I'm slow and not that good at it. But I'll give you just a little touch and sped up here. And I did try to use some of the same colors, so I've got the teals instead of green for the leaves and for her tail, so that it kind of matches the water, or at least coordinates. And then I've got slightly different shades of teal for the narwhal. And once I get her all colored up, I can die cut her. And then off camera, I went ahead and I colored just the top edge of one of the snow globes, and then the base layer in that same kind of purpley color that I used on the mermaid. And I'm going to stamp the word push on that purple layer, and I want to heat emboss it with white so that it kind of all coordinates. We've got the blue and the white and the purple. I didn't want to use black ink there. So you see me line it up in the MISTI. I used my anti-static powder tool, stamped it with Versamark ink a couple times just so I get nice coverage, and then I can sprinkle on some white embossing powder and heat that with my heat gun, and it melts nicely. That Paper Crafting Magic stamp set is really nice if you make interactive cards. I like it. While I am stamping, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment that says make a wish. I didn't want anything too big because I didn't want to lose any more of the globe scene. So I'm just going to stamp this in purple ink and let it kind of dry and level out a little bit. Now to die cut it, there is it's kind of a little rectangle there, but notice that it's smaller than the sentiment that says make a wish. It's the right height, but it's a little short for the sentiment. So I'm just going to partially die cut. I set the stamped sentiment in my die cutting machine, and then I layered the die on top. And the top cutting plate, notice that I did not cover the right edge, so I only cut 3 lines there. Now I can shift it over and do the same thing for the other side. And I do this all the time to make dies shorter or longer even. And you'll find the little groove that the top and bottom cuts made, and then it'll just slip right in place there. And again, I'm not putting that top plate all the way over, or I would cut it in half, and you don't want to do that. So there we've got the sentiment already. All right, so now we're going to start the assembly part. I've got my card base. I've got those 3 layers. The center one has the acetate window. I've got the ink blended background and the purple base. I've got 2 layers of the mermaid, the reflection, and the sentiment. So now that we've got our bits and pieces, we can go ahead and start gluing some of them together. So the colored snow globe, I'm going to glue onto the acetate layered snow globe there, and that will make the top layer of the globe. And it's just nice and thick this way, and it sandwiches in the acetate, so it'll just all be one solid piece with a little more body. I'm going to glue the purple layer on top, and that holds it all together nicely. I am going to glue the 2 mermaid layers together. If you were wondering why I had a second piece, this is why, so that you don't see the back. And then also because she's going to be hanging off the edge of a shaped card, and she's got lots of little small pieces and like kind of curly little bits from her hair and her fin. So I wanted to add a second layer to make her nice and sturdy as well, so she won't bend, and then also you won't see any of the bleed through from the coloring. Now, we're not going to glue the ink blended background down yet, but we are going to kind of hold it in place and get this lined up on our card base so that we can glue that 3rd white layer of the snow globe, the detail portion of the snow globe, to the card base. So once I know that it's centered where I want it, I can pick it up, leaving the ink blended piece in place, add some glue to the back, and then I can go ahead and stick this down. And like I said, I'm not gluing that blue piece down yet, not the ink blended piece yet. So I've got that all glued down, and then now we're going to mark where we want our light up stars to be. So I grabbed 3 of those stars. Those are from the Shooting Sparkle Star blend. You could use the colored ones if you wanted. I was thinking the iridescent would kind of be more of a little surprise later. So I put them where I wanted them, and then I grabbed a pencil and I kind of nudged them out of the way and made a little pencil mark for each one. And then I will grab my pickup stick tool and use the pokey end to just poke through those 3 pencil marks. These are going to give us the holes for our lights. So I've got those 3 holes there. And I'll kind of open them up a little bit to make sure that my little light bulb can lay there on the back side. And then what I'll do is take some Scotch tape here. You can use washi tape, whatever you have. And then I will grab my twinkle light, and then I'm just going to take the light bulb that's at the end of each of the wire and tape it into those little holes. I'm not sticking it, like poking it all the way through. I'm just kind of laying it right on top of that hole, and it ends up making just the perfect size little divot to hold the light. Now when you are playing with these lights, you'll notice there is a front and a back side. So as you see me spinning the wires around a little bit, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm getting the light bulb, the front of the light bulb, laid right on top of that hole. It'll work either way. It just shines brighter if the light bulb is pointing out. So I've got all 3 taped in place. And you can see when I push the button, they start twinkling. And then now I want to figure out where the button is going to be taped down. So I just kind of stacked the push button layer in place. I slid it out of the way and marked it with my pencil where the button should go. Then I'm going to use some of the rip and stick tape on the back of the battery part of the twinkle light, and I will line it up so that the button is where my pencil mark is. Now we've got a little bit of extra wire, and this is me being a little bit OCD. Nobody's going to see this. So I'm just going to kind of coil up the extra, which is a little tricky because you have the lights taped to one part and the battery to the other, but it's really not that hard. I just kind of spun it around a little bit so it was coiled up a little bit tighter, but like I said, nobody's going to see it. That Scotch tape will hold the coil in place. Then I use some more of that wet glue around the edges, and I will glue the ink blended panel in place. And that was the hard part of making a light up card. Now I'm just going to glue those little stars right on top of our lights, because the little lights are kind of boring by themselves. Maybe if it were like a night sky, then it would look like stars. But in this case, I wanted them to be starfish. So I'm going to glue those stars right on top, and the light shines right through them. You saw me use the pickup stick tool for that again. I love that thing. I use it all the time. Now we are going to cover it up. So we need some double thick foam tape. You want to add the double thick foam tape around the edges, but make sure that you don't put it where the battery is, because then it would just be a little too thick. And I am working with our brand new World's Greatest Foam Tape. Now I think this is the greatest thing since sliced butter, because well, I worked really hard to get this made. The tape has a special adhesive that it's not permanent at first. You have work time before it starts to become permanent, at least half an hour. And you guys, I should have cut this into 4 strips instead of 3, but I didn't really realize that. But I left all this in here because I want you to see how cool this tape is. You can peel it up if it's not, like, if it's too thick and you need to trim it down, or you put it in the wrong spot. You can peel it up. You're not going to ruin the paper, and you're not going to ruin the tape. You can reuse it. So you see me just pick it up, and then I'm going to start trimming it. Now the tape will become permanent within 24 hours, or the adhesive part will become permanent within 24 hours. And I also worked to get the release paper, a special release paper that comes off really easily. That was really important to me. Release papers should release. It's in the name, right? So it took me about 2 years to get this tape the way I wanted it and brought to market, but it's finally here, and I am excited to share it with you. And it is available in the Trinity Stamp shop along with our Twinkle Lights. In fact, we're sold out of the Twinkle Lights on our site. You've got to get them from Trinity Stamps. All right, so I am going to mess with this tape for a little bit and get those edges exactly the way I want them. I am a little bit OCD about it. You won't see every little bit from the sides, but what you can see, I want it to be pretty. So I peel it up and I fix it, and then I put it back down. And I should mention, it is acid free for anybody who is a scrapbooker or wants to use these with photographs and things like that. Your tape will not cause any issues for you. And I think I've got one more little bit here that I'll trim up, and then this guy is ready to stick on top. And the reason we're using double thick foam tape is because we want to be the same thickness as the battery, and the battery is about 3 millimeters thick. So we'll go ahead and get that all trimmed up, and then we can stick it down. I think I didn't pull up the release paper yet down at the bottom part. I guess I worked with this for quite a while until I got happy with it. Did you see how fast the release paper came off? It comes off really easy. That was like a key thing for me. So now I've just gone ahead and stuck it down. And if I had put this down in the wrong spot, I could have picked it up and moved it. All right, so that's stuck in place. It's also, this one could have been a shaker if you wanted to make it a shaker. I just didn't put any in there. And of course I didn't think of it until after we were done. I'm going to glue on the little mermaid here to the left side. I love how she already looks kind of like she's sitting. So it worked out perfect, like she's sitting on the edge of her little water globe here. And then I'm going to glue down the Make-A-Wish sentiment as well. And in this case, I wanted to use tweezers just to get my fingers out of the way and make sure that I lined it up nice and straight. And I almost forgot that reflection. It's so cute, right? The die set thinks of everything, which makes it easy. So I'll glue that down again with that Barely Arts glue because it'll stick to the acetate nicely. And then that finishes her up. Cute, right? I like the way this turned out. I hope that I've inspired you to play along, pull out some of the older dies that you have and mix with the new ones. And if you've never tried the lights, give the Twinkle Lights a try, and our foam tape as well. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you're new to the Trinity Stamps channel, feel free to click subscribe and ring that bell. They share lots of inspiration regularly, and I'll leave a link to my channel as well. Thanks so much for watching.